No one could have predicted that a band synonymous with sex, drugs, and rock and roll chaos would deliver one of the most cinematic and emotionally devastating power ballads of all time. But November Rain wasn't just a surprise. It was a thunderstorm of obsession, heartbreak, ambition, and resistance. It wasn't born in a studio or during a jam session. It lived inside Axl Rose for years, haunting him, demanding to be heard. While the rest of the band wanted to keep things raw and dangerous, Axl was dreaming of orchestras, long intros, and funeral scenes. Before the song made history, before it broke records and hearts, it almost destroyed Guns N' Roses from the inside. To understand November Rain, you have to go back to a time before Guns N' Roses were even famous. In the early 1980s, Axl Rose was writing piano ballads in a tiny apartment in Hollywood, scribbling lyrics into spiral notebooks, far away from the Sunset Strip mayhem. Long before Appetite for Destruction, he had a vision. He was obsessed with Elton John, Freddie Mercury, and Jim Steinman, theatrical songwriters who could make you cry with a chord change. He once said that he wanted to write something timeless, something that would feel like Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody. That something was November Rain, and it stayed unfinished for nearly a decade. By the time Guns N' Roses exploded onto the world stage in 1987, Axl was already trying to convince the band to take on this enormous song. But the timing was off. The band was still fueled by the reckless energy of Appetite for Destruction, gritty, dangerous, unpredictable. Slash hated the idea of a long piano ballad. Duff McKagan didn't understand how it fit into their style. Even Izzy Stradlin, who was Axl's childhood friend, thought it was too much. The song was over 9 minutes long. It needed strings. It needed patience. And patience was not something Guns N' Roses had in 1988. Still, Axl wouldn't give up. In fact, he recorded a demo version of November Rain as early as 1986. Just him and a piano, sounding more like a tortured poet than a rock star. That raw demo was passed around quietly, a ghost track that no one wanted to touch. But Axl's obsession only grew stronger. He once said in an interview that he believed November Rain was meant to be, and that it would be the song he was remembered for. While the band toured and fought and drank and overdosed, Axl kept returning to that melody. To him, November Rain was more than a song. It was prophecy.
When work began on the Use Your Illusion albums in the early 1990s, Axl saw his moment. He had creative control, the band was on a bigger budget, and he wasn't taking no for an answer. He told producers that November Rain was going on the album even if it took everything to make it happen. Slash reluctantly agreed to try. And what he gave was legendary. The iconic guitar solo was done in one take. Just one. No overdubs. It was pure feeling, one of those moments that just happened, as if it had been waiting to come out. Slash later admitted he didn't even realize how powerful the solo was until he heard it layered into the final mix with the strings. But recording November Rain was pure chaos. It took over a year of on and off studio sessions. At one point, the band brought in a full orchestra, yes, a real one, with Axl working side by side with composer and arranger Paul Buckmaster, who had previously worked with Elton John. Axl wanted cinematic drama, and Buckmaster delivered. But it didn't come cheap. The cost of recording November Rain was reportedly in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, one of the most expensive recording sessions of the entire album. And that was before the music video. Let's talk about that music video, the most ambitious in Guns N' Roses' career and, at the time, the most expensive music video ever made. With a budget estimated around $1.5 million, Axl envisioned a mini-movie that combined love, tragedy, and surrealism. The concept was inspired by Del James's short story Without You, which was rumored to be based on Axl's own troubled relationship with Erin Everly. In the video, we see Axl marry his lover, only to lose her in a mysterious death during a rainstorm. The infamous wine glass scene, where someone suddenly dives across a table and sends glasses flying, became a symbol of the video's surreal, unexplained chaos. The wedding scenes were shot in a grand old church in New Mexico, with Stephanie Seymour, Axl's then-girlfriend, playing the bride. But the tension behind the scenes was real. Rumors swirled about constant fighting, late-night reshoots, and last-minute changes from Axl that drove the production team crazy. Slash, who appears walking out of the church to perform his solo in the middle of a desert, said the shoot was exhausting. He had to do multiple takes of that walk, guitar strapped, hair blowing, pretending to be lost in the moment, even though he hated the concept. But ironically, that desert scene became one of the most iconic moments in music video history. When November Rain was finally released in 1992, everything changed. It debuted to critical acclaim and became the longest song in history to enter the Billboard Hot 100's top 10. It peaked at number 3 and stayed on the chart for months. Fans were blown away. MTV put the video on constant rotation. For the first time, Guns N' Roses were not just seen as a dangerous rock band, they were artists. Poets of pain. The band that once sang about heroin and sleaze was now making people cry. And the industry had to take them seriously. But the song's legacy didn't stop there. In 2018, November Rain became the first music video from the 1990s to reach 1 billion views on YouTube. A billion. It now sits at over 2 billion views and counting. It's played at weddings, funerals, proms, and stadiums. Slash still performs the solo as part of his live shows. And Axl, even after years of silence and reinvention, still considers November Rain one of his proudest creations. Ironically, the song that once divided the band would go on to define them. It showcased what made Guns N' Roses unique, the ability to take their raw pain, their infighting, their addictions, and transform all of it into something cinematic and unforgettable. In a way, November Rain is the perfect metaphor for Guns N' Roses, beautiful, chaotic, ambitious, tragic, and completely unforgettable. Axl didn't just write a power ballad. He forced an entire band, an entire industry, and an entire generation of fans to feel something deeper. He turned his demons into melody. His heartbreak into art. And somehow, in the storm of fame, drugs, and destruction, he found a moment of clarity long enough to give us this masterpiece. And now, decades later, every time the piano begins, and that storm starts to build, we're reminded that sometimes, the most beautiful songs are born in the darkest rain. For more untold rock legends, hidden drama, and the true stories behind the greatest music ever made, subscribe now to Rock Fame Diaries, where every song has a story, and every story deserves to be heard. God bless.